Hello, and welcome back to the SPIRE podcast. Today we are 4 weeks after our last one, so it's a bit of a break and we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
Today we'll be talking about Seek. We all went on Seek a week and a half ago or something like that. It was a week-long conference, so 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, a week ago. It was a phenomenal experience, I think, that all of us enjoyed in our different, unique ways. And we'll just be talking about what we did and how it affected us and all of these things. So.
And my name's Fulton.
And my name's Nick.
And my name is Michael.
And you're watching the SPIRE podcast.
Great intro.
Boom. We'll start with, for the sake of Seek, we'll read the scripture that it's based on. So our whole purpose with this podcast is basically to go on this journey of asking, seeking, and knocking. So this is Matthew 7. Ask, and it will be given you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. And to him who knocks, it will be opened. Or what man of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And then another one is seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. Okay. So to start us off, what did you guys think about the event? How you feel right now? Emotionally, spiritually?
Think it was an event, more like a
physically?
whole thing, an ordeal, but not like a hard ordeal, not a bad ordeal.
An experience.
That's the word. It wasn't a singular event that... It was 5 days of hunger.
Okay, I will never use the word event again to describe that.
Okay, I'm being pedantic, but it was an amazing experience. Pedantic.
Don't
Semantic.
use smart people words we don't understand.
I won't be very particular about the things I say.
What is pedantic?
Pedantic is like being...
Here's your word of the day.
Pedantic is like being hyper particular about what a word exactly means. That's more semantics. But I'm being pedantic about that, and that makes no sense. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just love the word pedantic. It's something along the lines of being really particular about the meaning of your words. What?
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson.
He's pedantic.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
But anyway, Seek. Huh. I went last year, and there was great talks last year, and there was great talks this year. Completely different experience for some reason. It's just like, depending on who you're with and the way you interact with those around you, it's just a completely different experience. And I can get more into that later, I guess. But it was just a really enjoyable... I grew in faith, hope, and love. And I'm determined to become a better Catholic through it.
Yeah, I'd say pretty much all the same stuff. I think I also went last year. Did you go last year?
No, this was my first year.
It was your first year. Okay, so I want to hear what you have to say since it was your first time experiencing it. But... yeah, a very similar experience to the first time, for me at least. But I did feel like a lot of the talks this year, more so than last year, kind of spoke to me and like were more impactful for me. I can't like recall specific things all the time, but just as a whole, super impactful. And I do think it has to do with the people you're with, definitely. But I want to hear what you thought about it since it was your first time.
I think what stood out the most was, I think really it was being there with friends that have been close with for a long time. Because I think with those events, you can get those talks anywhere, but actually being there in person and seeing someone talk and being around a bunch of people that all cheer and say yes to the same things, it gives you a better perspective on what's real. And it's like you kind of get used to just your community that you're used to, and you hear the talks and you know like the different words people use. But then when you're at an event with a bunch of people you've never seen before, and everyone is there for the same reason, there's a different energy, I think, that goes with it.
Yeah.
I think there were still talks to me that I was talking about this with friends because I was like, there are some talks and some speakers that don't really do anything for me. Not like I'm expecting it to do something for me in like that kind of a way.
It just doesn't speak to you in any way.
Right. And I think it's because what was really good about that event is that there was a variety of speakers speaking on different topics. And so I think there was something there for everyone on their stage of the journey, I guess. And so there might have been a talk that someone else was like, wow, that was like exactly what I needed to hear. That was speaking to me in a special way. I really enjoyed that. It was entertaining and engaging. And it was like, for me, I couldn't really, there was like nothing that was like what Fulton was looking for, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
But then there were talks and there were events and times where it was like, this was like okay, this is exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm around people I know and trust. And it was like really well delivered, really well put together. The concert at the end was super cool. Yeah. So it was like a really good experience.
Did you see that there was a priest that crowd surfed?
No.
You missed that?
I think
That
so.
was so funny.
I had left before this, but
Patrick Ballman was the one who started him.
Got him
our
crowd
group
surfing?
was crowd surfing, and they got a priest to crowd surf.
You were crowd surfing people, or you guys were crowd surfing?
We weren't crowd surfing. They're like,
Well, a couple of our
John
group was.
did.
Yeah,
But
John did?
yeah,
not the John you know.
John Strowski. John, his friend John. I don't remember his.
A
last
John
name.
you don't know.
Yeah, different John.
Yeah,
Seminarian?
no,
Okay.
But
you have no idea who this man is.
Okay.
people were crowd surfing, and we were the group that would like get them all started. And
That's
so
cool.
Patrick was the guy who like went up to the priest and he was like, "Hey, can we crowd surf you?" And then he went all the way across.
Yeah.
They were dropping everybody, and they didn't drop the priest though, which was
Yeah, he went so far. It's just like spread eagle, just like floating down. I'm sad I wasn't there for that because concerts are really loud. I left and just walked around Mission Way and bought a couple books. That's my personality.
You left the concert?
Yes, it was loud and there was like people everywhere. It's like a mosh pit. I don't like that. So I just kind of like snuck out, and I don't think anyone noticed I left because it was so packed, so loud. So I had peace and quiet, talked to some people, talked to a cool Capuchin friar, priest guy in Mission Way and all that. That's the sort of thing. So first, let's talk a bit about like what's the Sikh, like it's a Catholic conference, but like what do you do there? Like what are the things that happen?
It's good, yeah. We should do that.
Yeah, probably.
For all of the listeners that would have no idea what that is.
So Sikh is a yearly Catholic conference. It started off really small, like 25 years ago, and it got really big this year with 20,000 people, 20,000 Catholics all worshiping God. It's quite a sight to see. But it's basically Monday and Friday are a bit different just because there's less time. You get there in the evening and leave in the morning. But for the actual 3 main days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, you get there, you go to Mass, and you're at Mass with 20,000 people and a bunch of bishops. I've memorized the bishops that were there each day, and it's insane. The number, not the people, but the number. I don't know all the bishops.
I was going to say, I was like, that is incredible.
So on Monday,
but okay.
I'm not that.
Forgot what I had for breakfast. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I made notes. So on Monday, there were 17 bishops. On Tuesday, there were 21. On Wednesday, there were 28. One of them was a cardinal, Cardinal Dolan. Thursday, there were 23. And Friday, there were like 13 or something. So 28 bishops on Wednesday. 28 bishops. That's a lot of bishops from all over the country and the world. There was a bishop from Ireland there. So anyway, there was Mass in the morning. Then you break up the men and the women, and they go to concurrent sessions. They have the keynote to the men and the keynote to the women. And there's already a couple of other things that you can do, because that's for the college section. Then lunch and stuff, and then you've got just concurrent sessions. There's each hour, at say 2:00, there's 7 different talks you could decide to go to, ranging of a whole variety of things. And you do that a couple of times in the afternoon, and then there's a huge keynote after dinner, and then you go home, or you do the fun stuff that's afterwards. So it's a whole. It's not like a retreat. It's a conference.
Mm-hmm.
You go pick to do what you want. There's, what is it called? Everything that you can conceive of, really, to do at a Catholic place.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember, because I've heard a lot of people who said they didn't like it, but I think that it's important to remember that it is a conference and it's not a retreat. Like, it's not intended to just be like you go there for 7 days and it's like silence and you're praying the whole time. Like, it is very much a conference kind of experience. And there are definitely spiritual moments and there's a lot of time for that kind of thing. But I have talked to some people who didn't like it for that reason, because they were expecting kind of the retreat. But that's hard to do with 25,000 people.
Yeah. It's crazy. So what was the most impactful part for you guys?
The number one was Monsignor James Shea's talk the first night.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday.
So many people loved that.
That was the best talk I've ever heard, ever. Out of any lecture or talk, that was amazing.
Why was it particularly good?
Because I think the number one problem is that we don't know what's going on. I think that is at the source of everything, is that we don't know what is really going on. And so he retells the story, and he does it in a very poetic and straightforward and clear way. And I have never seen anything like that. And I think it almost has with it you can feel that there's a power with it. It's not just another talk kind of going into this. Like, we listened to the Scott Hahn talk, and it was like...
Yeah, I didn't end up making it to that.
It was okay. Like, my dad loves Scott Hahn, but Scott Hahn has never really appealed to me because of his style and the way that he presents or what he's talking about. Not that it's inconsequential, but it's just that is not what's hitting my heart at this age and, like, me and what I'm trying to figure out with life. But I think what I needed was like the ground layer laid out of like, okay, forget everything. This is exactly what's going on. And you can see any of these videos again. If you go to seekreplay.com, you can watch these videos. It's the weight of our brokenness. But in short summary, he goes over why, I guess, well, you guys can maybe help me out with this one. It's sort of, he pinpoints where so much of our anxiety and difficulty and pain that we face in life as people is rooted back to the fact that there was a fall, and we were destined for a paradise, and we were all destined for communion with God. But when the angels fell, they attacked us, and we turned, and then ever since then, we've had a deep wound, and the entire story of human salvation is the saving of humanity, which is in a sense the healing of every wound. And every person who's born into this life bears that mark, that wound. And the Christian journey, or the journey to fulfillment, is really just the journey of healing, from experiencing healing from Jesus and being fully united with him in a relationship. And that schism that was caused left this pit in our hearts, and that's the source of everything painful, negative, evil, heartbreaking. It all stems from that, and that the devil is using those wounds to tear us further and further away from the only source that will ever bring love and peace. And the way that he put it was like way more eloquent than that, and way more in depth.
He doesn't.
It was amazing.
Sound like he's speaking to you. He sounds like he's speaking in you. Like it's kind of resonating inside your skull, and like he's just such an emotional speaker. Never trust technology; it fails you each and every time.
Technical difficulties, but we're back.
So anyway, you were saying Monsignor Shea resonates in you. It's not like he's speaking to you.
And so he's just a really good speaker. Like, that talk for me did not speak too much to me because, we were talking earlier about like scripture and whatnot, and I'm just like, yeah, no, this makes sense. Like what he's saying is like, yeah, I don't understand that. It didn't really like speak to me emotionally. Like it was a good talk, but there were other talks that spoke to me more.
I think so. It's really interesting because he gave one of the men's talks in 2022, right? Or 2023, technically.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
right.
talk didn't. I kind of just was like, yeah, that was just like a talk. It was like whatever. But this year, it was insane. And I felt it so much. I think part of the reason all of our stuff, the devil's attacking our technical setup right now.
That explains it.
There might be some truth to that.
Or Trent Horn talk about that all the time. He was asking people to pray for him because he was having technical difficulties and he felt like the devil was attacking him. It's the same thing right here. The devil's attacking us.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Last year his talk didn't really speak to me at all. And this year it did. And I think the biggest thing was because he was talking about all that stuff that you were saying, but then also our generation, so probably 75+% of the people that were there, Gen Z is like the most depressed, most anxious, most self-hating generation ever by essentially every metric that you can measure that by. And when I I was paying attention from the start, but when I really kind of zoned in and I was like, this is like, I'm going to pay attention to this talk like extra close, was when he was telling the story, but right as he started, he was kind of saying like, this is the situation that you're in, so maybe it's not such a crazy response to be kind of sad or to be like to feel kind of lonely or to feel kind of anxious. And because I feel like so many people think, especially Christians, like you have this good news of the gospel, whatever, you have all that good stuff, and so you expect everything to just be perfect, and when it's not, you kind of freak out.
We're almost ashamed by feeling depressed or lonely.
Yeah, you're ashamed of the negative feelings because you feel like you shouldn't feel them because of what you have. Like you have all this good stuff and you still feel bad and you're like, well, why do I feel bad? And then you don't talk about whatever. And that leads into a whole other group of things. But I think it was really speaking to me, like the fact that that's just like, you didn't choose that. It's not your fault. This is the situation you were put in. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's okay, and it actually makes a lot of sense to feel that way.
Yeah.
And that leads into why you need this. And that whole moment was so cool when he was like, I'm the Good Friday priest, and he just stopped and it was just dead silent. That was like one of my favorite moments in any of the talks.
Yeah, I had the thought that if you don't know the bad news, you don't know, like the good news doesn't matter. Almost.
You can appreciate the good.
So it's like
the news,
right?
Yeah.
It's like you're supposed to tell everyone the gospel. Like this is the good news. It's like,
yeah,
what is it good for? But I feel like that's what he did is he drew out like the bad news is you're being hunted down. Mm-hmm. Someone is trying to tear everything away from you, and this life is after you. The good news is Jesus is there wins. For a reason. He's like actually real.
Yeah,
his ending was so cool.
What stood out.
He's just like, oh, but all this depressing stuff, and then he's like gets really excited and just like screams out, but Jesus wins.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's true. It's all awesome. And so it was a good talk.
So what talk stood out to you then, Nick?
So the talk that stood out to me most was the talk by Father John Ignatius Ezrati. He gave one of the keynotes later on.
He was a soccer player, right?
Yes? No, not the guy, one who gave the men's talk.
Oh, not him?
No,
wait,
not him.
Who was that guy?
Father something else.
Keep going, sorry.
There's a lot of priests there. But he gave a vocations talk. And honestly, it was like, I hadn't really intended on going to that talk. I remember saying like, oh, cool talk about like vocations and what that means. I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds interesting. But then there was a different talk that I was wanting to go to. I was there with a couple of people, but it filled up. And so we split up the group that was wanting to go to that one talk. And then me and two other guys went to this vocations talk with Father Ezrati. And like, it's just amazing, like how eloquent he was with what vocations truly are. And it's not just like a vocation to the priesthood. There's 3 different types of vocations. You have the universal vocation for everyone. And that is the call to holiness. That is the first and foremost vocation of your life, the call to holiness. The second vocation.
How would you define holiness?
Can you do a whole podcast episode on that?
In one sentence.
Okay, holiness is being who Christ is to others. It is letting Christ live in you and live through you.
Cool.
So there's that primary vocation. Then the second level of vocation is I forget the name. It's in my notes, but I don't want to waste time to grab it. But it's basically what we call the big V vocation. You know, when like, oh, the big V vocation. There's two of these. This is what everyone is called to, one of these two things in their life: the married life or the consecrated life. That's it. And one big thing that he said that I've never really heard in a vocation talk before is that a single life is not a vocation. It is just who you are in the moment. You are not called to the single life. Note, consecrated life is not just priests, brothers, sisters. There is such a thing as a consecrated single life. But that is something, this level of vocation is you commit yourself for the rest of your life to a very particular thing, whether or not it be your wife, or if you're a woman, your husband, whether or not it be as a priest or as a brother or a sister making religious vows, but there's also consecrated single life. And so you can have a consecrated single life, but singlehood is like, oh, I'm single, that's my vocation right now. No, it's not. It's not your vocation right now. It's who you are right now. Your vocation is what you're being called to. Voco, vocare is the Latin for to call. And then the last level of vocation is the particulars, which is if you're called to married life, who? Simple. And he did all sorts of other stuff, talking about like tips and tricks and like how to imagine it. But it was just really cool to just hear like what vocations truly are. And if you feel like, oh, I could be a priest, there's two last things I'm going to say. Like if I kind of want to be a priest, but I kind of like really like women, and like not like in a weird lustful way, but just like I like women, and it's natural. Like that is the natural. So the married life is the natural calling. Every one of us, man, woman, every priest, every sister, every nun, everyone is called naturally to the married life. That is what our bodies are made for. But there is a supernatural calling for some to forego this natural calling to grow closer to God in a particular way, and that is the consecrated life. So that's one thing. And then, oh shoot, I forgot what the other one was. Anyway, it's a great talk. It's probably on seekreplay.com by now. So you should watch it. And that was the most impactful talk for me. Michael.
I mean, I honestly think mine was probably the Monsignor Shea one. But
why? Did you already say that?
He talked about it like 5 minutes
I
ago.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was the answer or if...
Yeah. I also, though, I really like, I think it's just because I like the way he talks and I like Australian people, but I love Matt Fradd.
Oh my goodness.
And it's
that
like,
was
it's
a
not
good
even
talk.
that it's like impactful in like the emotional sense, but it's just like, you just like get fired up just listening to
Man,
it.
Matt
I didn't
Fradd,
hear that one. Which one was that? Was that God, the Universe, and
Yeah,
everything?
It's a really good talk. It's definitely one of my top 3 from Seek.
Mm-hmm.
I just like how Matt Fradd talks. Like,
Yeah.
the way he gives a talk and the way he presents himself is exactly how I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I want to present myself. He's that, like, intellectual type that I want to be. Minus the cussing that he sometimes does. But...
He does it in like, if you can, he does it in
He doesn't,
like
like...
a tasteful way.
He doesn't do it
kind of.
distastefully. Like, it's not a distasteful thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it actually fits there. But
Yeah.
I just wouldn't do that myself.
Yeah.
But that was a good talk. And he just really is like, make a decision, do, act. Don't just like live your life, you know. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I think that one was also about, because like I literally always talk about, I've been so into like the arguments for God and stuff, and that one was kind of like less focused on the arguments, but it was more like if you exist as a person, like these are the questions you should be asking. And I can't remember all of them. I think there was a good. It was like, why are we here? What are we doing? Well, or it was like, why is there something instead of nothing? Why are we here? What should we be doing while we're here, and where are we going, or something like that.
And his thesis through this was, it's like, sure, you can explain things scientifically, but like maybe not sufficiently scientifically. But there are no good arguments against the existence of God in this
It
way.
almost came down to like a Pascal's wager kind of thing,
Yeah.
which I'm not like a huge fan of that, but
But he's like,
it was
if you
still
can't
really
give
good
me
talk.
any good reasons against believing in God,
Yeah.
then I might as well believe in God.
Yeah.
But
That was my other favorite one, I think. Just because I love Australian people.
he's so good. Imagine if he was listening to this podcast right now.
I just wanted to meet him and just be like, hey, Mr. Fred, we've got a podcast. You should come on sometime.
We're big and famous. We got like 10 viewers.
He had, what's his name? Father Weta
Oh my goodness.
on his podcast. Yeah.
Father Wetter, who did Spirit Live for us for the last 2 years, not did it for us, but like was there with us the last 2 years, was just on Pints with Aquinas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still need to listen to it.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was exactly what you expect from Father Wetter going on Pints with Aquinas.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
It was a great podcast. But so besides the talks, there was something called Mission Way, which is this big room full of what's the term? Booths with religious orders, people who make beautiful artistry and everything in between and beyond. What is you guys' views of Mission Way?
I think for me, it's a little overwhelming, honestly. I've never been the kind of guy who's like super into that. Not overwhelming in like a bad sense, just like there's so much to do and so many people that you could talk to that it's like you don't even know like where to go or who to talk to, kind of thing. So I think it was good to have, like, I was always with like you, Pat, Drew, Dominic, Clint, like not everybody all at once, but at least like one or two other people. So that was really helpful with that. But I think it was so cool just being there and just seeing, because I think that sometimes you kind of get this like idea that, at least I know I have in the past, that like all Catholics are just these super just like straight-laced people who are just like there to have no fun or whatever. And it's really, really cool to be in Mission Way, and there's all the fun stuff and all the booths and everybody's talking and playing pickleball and spike ball and whatever.
Including the nuns.
Including the nuns. That
Small
was so
sidetrack.
fun. Yeah.
When I left the concert to go just walk around Mission Way and talk with this Capuchin priest, we were just watching just this nun throw a football back and forth between someone. And the priest is like, isn't she beautiful? Like, she's so strong. I don't know how she does that. Like, that woman. And I'm like, that is the praise from a priest to a nun of just like acknowledging the true beauty of the human person. And like, it was just a cool experience. Like, that's the sort of thing where you can get at Mission Way.
Yeah, me and Thomas played spike ball with a priest last year. 2 of them, actually. And it's so fun just like seeing them, because like obviously they have their booths and whatever, but seeing them just do that stuff, it's like, oh, the priest is a normal guy too. It's not like they're just, but seeing everybody in that context, for me, like that whole thing is cool and whatever. I don't feel like I explored it as much as I could have, but I feel like that kind of, what's the right way to say it? Like that heightened my appreciation for the moments that were outside of it in a way, because you see all these people and they're like having fun and they're just like completely normal people. And then you see 25,000 people get in the stadium. And like last year, I remember like the most impactful moment for me was the first time we were in Mass the first day. And you just see 20,000 people all make the sign of the cross all at the same time. And it was just like, it was such a big moment for me, just seeing all these people who are there to do what we were talking about in the very beginning, which is like seeking. And there's all these people coming together who are asking the same questions and looking for maybe not the exact same thing that you are, but I don't know, that whole thing was just so cool. And Mission Way, I think it was in a different way, but it was still, you see all these people coming together, talking to people, asking questions, looking for things. I thought it was really cool, but maybe one of you guys explored it more than I could, and you could give a better explanation of what it actually was and stuff.
It gives me the same being at those, because it was like, because the whole thing was, it was put on by Focus, and Focus does Catholic youth Bible studies at each colleges, at every college, where they'll have like a couple missionaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll try to recruit a bunch of the college kids at that campus and then do Bible studies. So then this is like the huge gathering where the focus is getting college kids to come, and then adults can go too. And so in the Mission Way, there's all these booths that have information about different religious orders or missions or whatever it was. And so like, but it was like not a big aisle, and there was like 5,000.
It was crowded.
It was just crowded. I don't know how many people there were.
You
But
should have left the concert because it was so empty.
Is the camera still going?
It's still going, yes.
Okay.
You should have left the concert because it was so empty and you could just talk around and it was quiet and peaceful. Anyway.
I was in there at one quiet part, which was very nice. It was early in the morning. I forget what was going on, but I got a picture with a Pier Giorgio cutout. That was pretty sweet. But when it was packed, it gave me the same feeling of being at like a, you know, when you have a fair or something and there's all these little booths with like little rocks and pictures and stuff. I really can't pay attention. There's like so many things going on. I can't really focus.
Options.
And so you're just kind of like in a daze, it feels like. So we basically just made our round, checked it all out, and then it was like, all right, let's go do something else.
Yeah.
But I think to what you were saying about just getting to see the interactions of all the people, it's really cool to see religious people mix in with regular people without anybody blinking an eye, really. One of the things that you said about your vocation, where we're all called to the natural marriage, but if you forego that marriage to jump to the greater marriage, which is us when we get to heaven and in the end with Jesus, there was a theology of the body talk about that, and Christopher West was basically framed it in this way, which I had never thought of before, is that it's the only reason people will talk about the vocation to holy orders as being better or higher is strictly because that marriage is better and higher than a human marriage. And so I always thought like, oh, if you're a religious, it's like higher than marriage and you're better. And, you know, you did the real hard thing and us, you know, the people down here just kind of suck. But really it's just, they're almost like spokespersons for the fact that this marriage isn't the end all be all marriage, but there is a better marriage. And he said a sacrifice is only as valuable as what's being sacrificed. And so a celibate person is actually pointing to the massive value of human marriage. And so I think having those people around you all the time is super cool. And getting to see like monks walk by in like white robes and
there were
I don't know what you would call those people.
Over 500 priests there.
You could feel it in the morning when they're all processing in for mass.
That was like a 15-minute long procession.
I
was like falling asleep
feel
with
those
like another
numbers.
priest. Come on, man.
I know. I would just like, I convinced myself that I was doing it just to pray and focus, but I'd close my eyes and kind of like bow my head, and then I'd look up and I'd be like, oh my gosh, there's still like.
Oh, I see a bishop's
hundreds
hat
of
now,
them.
so we're getting close to the end.
But then there's still like friggin' 1,000 bishops. Yeah, those processions were something else.
They were beautiful.
We didn't go to any of the masses there because we just knew
you slept in?
so long. We went to the cathedral.
Oh, you went.
Oh, that's
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, you missed out on a lot of bishops.
It
It was quite something.
Probably a lot of people.
There was a lot of people.
Honestly, though, like you would think, the only part of it for me that really felt long was the procession.
Yeah.
Because like it's crazy how effectively they like do communion and everything.
They had
It
that
all
down
was
to
just-
a pat.
It was.
There were
insane.
like 40 different communion stations, and at each station they had a seminarian, because there were just that many seminarians directing people. It's like, you go down here now and then you'll come up doing all of that. They had when the priests received, because they all were concelebrating the mass, hundreds of priests, after they concelebrated, then part of the ceremony, part of the thing of it is they ingest Jesus, like, and so you just see the priests all going up to receive Jesus, and then they grab a paten or a ciborium, and a seminarian is just like, follow me, and then the priest just has no idea where he's going. I bet you he has no idea, but the seminarian's like, we're going over here, and so he just follows the seminarian, plants down, and hundreds, thousands of people start receiving communion. and it's very quick. It's very efficient. It was cool.
Interesting.
It was difficult to kneel in those pews, though.
I know, they were
not
so
pews.
small.
I'm sure for you that was probably tough. You're a
Your
big
feet
dude.
were touching for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It was so funny though. We had one of our friends with us. His name was Max, and this was so Dallin got sick like the second day, and him and Max and there was like 10 of us piled in this minivan for the whole thing, and so him and Max were in the trunk the whole time.
Yeah.
And Max so ended up getting sick too. And so this was on the start of when he started getting sick was adoration night. And so we're there for adoration, and so like we're all kneeling up, and then just like 10, 15 minutes in, you like sit down, you're like, all right. And then, but Max, I noticed like he was kneeling for a little while and then he'd sit down, but he'd always be sitting like this, kind of hunched over his knees. And he just stayed like that for so long. And I remember thinking like his back's got to be hurting. So I like look behind him and there's this guy there and he's still kneeling up and he's praying. He's got his hands over the seat, so Max like can't sit back.
Yeah.
And so he's just sitting there and he keeps looking back and the guy just does not move. And I was dying because I
It's
just
so
saw it
funny.
in him where you're like, man, you want to sit back, but this guy will not catch the hint. And
It's
so
like, this
he
guy's
went,
too holy.
yeah, he stayed kneeling the whole time. So Max was just like, bro. And he gets out and he's like, what's up with Mr. Iron Knees behind me? It's like, we get it. You're insane, dude. Sit down. It was so
That's
funny. What did you guys think about the adoration, actually?
I think it's awesome. I think, stuff like that. I've never been the kind of person who gets like super emotional just about anything at all. But again, like I was saying with the sign of the cross thing, it's just watching so many people and just experiencing so many people being there, just praising God. Everybody's just kneeling, and it's so wild. And obviously it is just an incredible personal experience as well. But I think that was the biggest thing for me, is just seeing everybody, every knee shall bow. That was
great.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah, because for the conference there are 20,000 people, but on Wednesday there
were
are
another-
4,000 more people from St. Louis Archdiocese. 4,000 more. So there are 24,000 people in that stadium just adoring Jesus, doing one thing. That's so cool. But for me, like, I go to lots of adoration nights and stuff where Jesus is exposed in the monstrance, and most of the time I'm just there, just like praying, existing, kind of like trying to focus on Jesus and all of these things. But for some reason, anytime there's like a massive gathering of people to adore Jesus in the monstrance, it gets me a little more emotional. But I remember we were in like the top pews. So at one point, I left to go to confession. They had a really efficient confession line. It's like
Did you
400,
get through it?
400 priests. It was efficient. I
So
got through it in
crazy.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, there were
Dang.
I went-
hundreds and hundreds of people in front of me. But
I
like,
went on like Tuesday because I didn't think I was
Yeah.
gonna be able to get through. I kind of wish I had waited.
it
though.
would be, it was more efficient. It was quicker to get through than for any of the other any of the other
crazy.
days, because they had 400 priests and they had it really efficiently to like have people directing. So each priest was basically constantly done. And I talked to one of the priests later, and he's like, "Yeah, I only listened to like 10
That's
people
so crazy.
because like, well, 400 times, I don't know, 8 to 10, 400. No, sorry,
400
4,000.
4,000. Yeah.
4,000 people went to confession that night, and like in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's insane.
Quite insane. But I remember when I was walking down, I crossed the center, because we were on the opposite side as where confession was. So I crossed the center, and I passed by Jesus and I knelt down and like prostrated myself before him. And I remember thinking as I was heading off to confession, I know that they process with the monstrance. It'd be really cool if once I got back from confession, that the monstrance would just be going right in front of me as soon as I walk in. That didn't happen, but when I walked in,
I thought you were building up to be like, and then I walked back in, and it was just right there.
I know.
I am
did
building
not
up to
happen.
something, but it wasn't exactly how I pictured it. But I walked in, and I just crossed over to the center, and then I just couldn't go any further because there's just a mass of people. But then I saw that the monstrance was coming down, and so I knelt, and then the monstrance passes. Oh, it's over. It's like, oh, it was really emotional for me because for some reason I get really emotional in front of the monstrance when there's a lot of people around. But like, yeah, so it passed there, and then it turned, and then it passed behind me. So like I was able to move around to the other side, and it passed me again. And then it went down another aisle where it's a little further, and it basically passed me again. And I was just like down there for like 15, 20 minutes, just like, Jesus is coming back and forth. He's coming back to me. And like, it was just such an impactful thing because I remember last Seek, I had an emotional experience during adoration where I just like really felt like I wanted to just like cast myself fully to the ground in front of him. I couldn't do that because I was surrounded by people in a pew, but there was an empty seat next to me, so I was able at that time to like hunch down and like completely hide underneath the seat to bow before Jesus. But that experience actually made me want to, and from then on, I've received communion on my knees. Because beforehand, I'd seen people do that, and I'm like, oh, they're just wanting to like appear holy because people get to see them. But like that experience of me just like, I just wanted to just like be nothing before Jesus and just like fully prostrate myself before him. Like it was impactful enough that now I'm like, I now understand why it is good to receive on the knees in humility. And so like that was just an impactful thing. And I guess another impactful experience at Seek where there's a mini miracle of timing. Just the timing of me coming back from from confession was perfect for me to get stuck behind a group of people and not like walk up to my seat and then realize, oh shoot, I missed out. But the people kept me there, and then Jesus just kept coming back to me. And man, my shirt was a little wet from like sobbing. It's like when I get really emotional, then I start like sweating, and it's like disgusting. I'm glad like
save the shirt.
No one I knew.
Don't wash it.
That was the weirdest talk.
Oh,
It was. I was like, oh, it's kind of. I like get the point, but it's kind of.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't
So
even
what-
know what shirt I was wearing, but it was just. I was glad that there was no one like right hunched up next to me because like I probably stank, but it's like it was just emotional. It was just like I just like let everything go, and then for the rest of the adoration, I just kept my eye focused on the monstrance, which was really far away because once I got back on the seat, it was really far away. But I could just get my eyes focused there, barely blinking because somehow I can do that when I'm just like it's tunnel vision. It's just like this amazing thing, and then it just kept cycling in my head, just like to give yourself fully to God is like a lot of times when I'm praying, I'm like, oh, what'd be really cool is if I'm praying so holily that I start like levitating, but I don't notice it because I'm humble. I don't notice that I'm levitating, and then everyone sees me, and just like that always happens to me. But then I just remember being like, do not let me be overcome by feelings of greatness. Because that is not who I am. I am not like that great person who will levitate before the Eucharist because God is the one who levitates. Jesus is the one who does that. And so just like, do not let me become overwhelmed by thoughts of, oh, being great or making people see me or know me in this beautiful way. No, just if all I am is right here in front of you, Lord, that is it. And I will be happy. Like this moment is all time because the glory and power of God is so great that this great distance that I had, it was probably like hundreds of feet. Like it was hard to like see the Eucharist. But like with how big God is, that distance is nothing. So I remember being like, so many people want to like go up really close to the Eucharist so they like feel great. But like Jesus is so big that far away, it's as if he's right there in front of your eyes. Even this time, it's only an hour or two, but like this is forever. Like this is all time right now, existing right now, just you and Jesus experiencing this communion of love. And adoration, to say the least, was quite a cool night.
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. It was emotional for a lot of people in different ways. You could hear people.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You could hear people. There was that one guy. Yeah.
That was super beautiful. That's really cool.
It's like,
Well, like
I've
huge
had a couple
blessing.
experiences in front of the Eucharist, and it's like it's just a beautiful thing. It's like you don't need to feel an experience because, like, it's a consolation that Jesus gives you at times, and desolations at others where you feel nothing. But it was, like, it was a gift from him, but it wasn't something like experience of sheer joy. It was just like almost I was forcing my will to acknowledge him, but like I don't have that power. So Jesus was giving me the strength to like focus my will, and things kept coming in, distractions coming in. It's just blah blah blah. Oh, cute girl, blah blah. It's like all of these distractions that happen, but like Jesus gave me the gift to be able to like set it aside and just be with him, and it was a great time.
That's so cool.
Amazing. I'm gonna clip that.
Oh boy, that was
there you go.
all right. Good
That was
luck.
awesome.
Yeah. How about you? You talked a bit about adoration.
What was the question?
You
How was
asked.
adoration? You talked a bit about it, but not about you personally.
I didn't have any crazy experiences. That's the
That's
question.
the normal thing that happens.
Um,
Sometimes I feel like I make stuff up in my mind. It's like, no.
No, I think I didn't have an experience that day, but I didn't need one.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell of like I just was just taking it in for what it was, I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't really I think it kind of, at least from what I've been seeing in like the journey as you're trying to like see what's really going on, I've had a lot of moments that were like massively huge wake up calls during spiritual direction or during prayer or something like that. That is like, if you were seeing it from my perspective, it's like, okay, that's huge. But and so then during adoration, it wasn't so much like, it almost felt like I was just at peace, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so it was an experience where I was like, it was hard to stay focused. When there's a lot going on, it's hard to stay focused, I've noticed. I mean, groundbreaking news. It's like, but it was hard to stay focused, so I was just kind of like letting myself just be there, I think, you know, and just sort of to look at everything for what it was, to kind of see all of the people, to see the image, and I had a few moments where I teared up, I think, just sort of going down that path of like, wow, like this is real. It's the feeling that this is real, I think, is what stood out to me the most. And that's been a sort of consistent theme the last few months. Because I wouldn't say that I have an ecstatic joy yet, or like lasting peace, but it's like I've been getting closer and closer to an experience of things feeling and being real.
Yeah.
Of like, this is like, this is true. And it's not like this is true, but yeah, but this like kind of, you know, it's more like this is true. And you're like, oh wow, this is true. And so I think during adoration, it was just it was cool to be there with a group of friends.
Yeah.
And to be there with my girlfriend as well, where it's like, we're on the same page here. We're all here for the same reason. And it was kind of like, I just sort of let myself be there instead of think, okay, I've got to get into like this mode of focus. I've got to do this. I've got to have this emotional experience. I need it. It's like, I kind of just let it be whatever it was going to be. And it was just like a good experience. Like I just felt there. I felt very present. I felt like myself. I felt like I could just let myself be a little bit distracted and be like, I'm getting distracted again. It's like, okay, why am I here? You know, and just kind of come back to that slowly and not be so expecting something of myself or expecting something from God to happen. And it still did in small ways, like in my own heart, things that I know that I've been paying attention to, thoughts that would come up. And then the chance just to sort of pray and be like, okay, God, I know that you're here because the whole room is calling you to be here. And so it's like, I just hope that you hear me now and like that you're with me as I'm going through all this stuff.
2 or 3 are gathered in my name. What about 20,000?
2 or 3 times.
Yeah. But no, that's a beautiful thing, just like to just be an experience. And that is in itself a great gift. It's like, I'm on the interior like a really emotional person. Some of my closer friends like can understand that. While on the outside I might not appear too emotional because I can, keep those in rein. But and so adoration lets me slip out of my putting images up. But for other people, it just lets them just exist and be real. And what you were saying is like to try to not force an emotional experience. I fear that like a ton of people there are just like,
Yeah.
this is if people like if I make an emotional experience and people will see that, and I'm fearful of like some pride that people might have felt, and I hope that Jesus could speak to them through that pride of like, I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be very emotional, loud, crying, laughing, or whatever, so people can see me. And it's like I hope that they were doing it for Jesus and not for themselves. Like at the end, there was this really cool cry of like "Viva Cristo Rey,"
Yeah.
and like it's a powerful, impactful thing, you know. Long live Christ the King. But I'm just fearful that some of those people are like, this. I can scream and be loud and let someone hear me, and then they can recognize me. And it's like they don't need to recognize you. Jesus does. Like you're here for Jesus. So if you're screaming like "Long live Christ the King" to Jesus and showing that joy, like that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing it for yourself, well, I hope that Jesus could speak to you through that.
Yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky.
I think I interrupted you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, while you were talking, Fulton, what you said about like not needing that kind of experience, that was something like basically everything you said. Like, I was the same way that night, but I didn't really feel like I needed that kind of emotional experience in the moment. But something that was really kind of sticking out to me a lot during adoration, especially, was how many people there were around me who probably did. And just, I found myself, I don't want to say this and be like, oh, look at me, I'm like doing this, whatever. But like, I found myself not even really, like a lot of times when I'm in adoration, I kind of tend, like most people kind of tend to be like, you bring all your problems, you bring everything to Christ, and it's like, this is, Jesus, this is what I want you to fix in my life. But I feel like in that night, I really kind of lost sight of my own suffering in a way, and I really felt kind of my attention directed towards the 19,999 other people in the room. But that also kind of gets to what you're saying about like having an emotional experience to like what if that's actually for you or like for a prideful reason. Because I saw so many people. I mean, I hope it was real, because if it was real, then there were so many people who were so
And it was beautiful.
moved that night, and that was such an incredible thing to see. But yeah, I feel like for me it was just, I kind of said it already earlier, but just witnessing the way that, not expecting something to happen for me, but more observing what was happening for everybody else in a way, was really powerful. Yeah. We're probably getting close to when you have to go.
We got a couple minutes.
But
Any final thoughts?
Before we finish, I've talked to you about it a little bit. I want to know what Fulton, did you go to all the guys' talks?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion on the performances?
Oh,
This
the
is gonna
talent
be, like-
shows?
Yeah, the talent
Yeah.
shows.
This is going to be weird for people listening who didn't see it, but I still want to know what you thought about them.
Well, okay. What was the first night? The
The
Singing.
first was the Navy dude singing
Yeah.
God Bless the USA.
As far as talent goes, she did write her own song
Yeah.
and perform it in front of 20,000 people. I'd give it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one was the magic card trick, right?
That was...
It was the magic trick, if you could even call it that.
That
And then
was-
the dude with
That
the
was a magic
vest.
really
That was
bad.
hilarious. That dude had
The
like
vest-
17 different vests on. Not just vests, but also shirts. It was hilarious. It
Yeah,
just
the
kept
vest.
going.
The vest thing was really funny, like
Yeah.
that, because it's like, in comparison to the card trick, you could have done anything. I was like, that
Well,
was
because with the card trick, it was like she could have stacked the deck, and she gave each person their
It was
card.
a fairly
and it was
easy
like,
card
I don't know.
trick, yeah. But like, dude, that he started dancing and like, this is weird. And then he's like taking off his shirt. I'm like, this is double weird.
Yeah.
And then there's just another vest. And it just keeps
It
going.
was just you want like, and then when we got to the last one, it's like the gold one or whatever, and everybody's just like,
yeah.
I was
The men are screaming.
Yeah,
That
I like that because
That
it was
was
just
so
kind of fun to get hyped
Yeah.
over something so stupid.
Yeah.
But it was just like we all knew it's like this is awesome. But yeah, no, I mean,
And then the last
Carter
one was the
wasn't
dance.
there.
yeah, less not be said. Then what was the last one?
The dance off.
With like the guys
like,
did
group
an
of 8 guys.
umbrella, and I don't remember what the girls.
Was that what
did,
song they were doing?
'cause it was
I just
so-
saw people dancing.
It wasn't memorable at all, but the guys did umbrella, and that was funny.
What talk was that?
On Thursday. The men's
Thursday
talk.
was the
Right
last
before the
one.
men's talk, there was a dance off.
Right before the men's talk. What was the men's talk on Thursday?
It was soccer.
The soccer
player
dude,
priest.
Father-
I can't remember what his name was for the.
I
life
do
of me.
Father
not
soccer dude.
remember.
Maybe you were
Really?
late that day or something.
I might
That
have been
sucks
late.
because it was a good talk and it was a good performance.
You should watch it. It was a good talk.
Yeah.
The soccer guy?
Yeah. I can't remember what his name was. That's gonna drive me
He,
crazy.
he was like becoming a famous soccer player. And then he's
he
like,
decided
you know
to
what?
be a priest.
I'm a priest now. Well, not
Yeah.
then, but like, I'll become a priest.
Yeah.
It was a good talk. I don't remember much of the men's talks. I took notes on them, and there were some really good ones.
So if there was one Seek talk that you would recommend people watch on seekreplay.com, what would it be?
Vocation, like, what is God calling you to do? I think that's the name. Father John Ignatius Ezerati. I hope it's up there now. It hasn't been yet, but they're getting caught up with the videos.
I would definitely say I think you said it was The Weight of Our Brokenness, the Monsignor James Shea.
I second that.
Pretty incredible. I haven't watched it back yet. I was gonna watch it or gonna listen to it on the way here. I hope it's as good when you listen to it. It's not going to be, but I hope
Yeah.
it's like half
Yeah.
as good. I hope
In
it's-
person.
Make
is
the
something
speakers
else.
louder so it reverberates in your chest as well.
Yeah. Wear headphones.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
surround sound.
All right. Well, that would conclude our little episode on Seek. We will have discussions on the topics of our further episodes, hopefully getting into more theological or spiritual or physical or intellectual or relational stuff. But
Or evangelical.
or
Did we say that one?
evangelical. I forgot about that one.
That's the biggie.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any ideas, whoever is watching, Drew, shout out to Drew. We owe you one T-shirt.
Drew, Olivia, Pat, literally all the people who said they've listened all the way through but still don't comment.
Well, so
comment.
Drew, I
Shame.
asked Drew, and he's like, "Yeah, I've listened all the way too, but I just haven't commented about the T-shirt because I'm like, I don't know if that seems unfair." And I was like, "Dude,
No, I
yes,
have one
you
right
get
there that I should have given it to him when he was here.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot. All right.
You're
Drew,
not an idiot.
when you're back.
But Drew should still comment. Anybody else should comment. Anybody else that listens all the way through. We have to have a word. What's the word? Because you said like lemons or something last time. You said like
I was like,
comment with,
as the outro. It's like, isn't it
The
like
outro
go
was
higher or
lemons.
something? Yeah, it was lemons.
Banana.
It's banana this time.
Banana. I love banana.
Salt Lake City.
Okay,
Salt
Salt Lake
Lake-
City.
Comment something about Salt Lake City because that's where
Salt-
Seek 25 is. So
Salt Lake banana.
Salt Lake Banana. There you go.
All right.
Comment Salt Lake Banana.
Oh boy, I think we lost the point of what we were talking about.
Probably.
Point Spire
All the way up.
brought the
Yeah.
pun back.
There we go.
Oh, always.
Always.
All right.
Okay, well that's it. Who wants to outro us in prayer?
I'll outro us in prayer.
Okay.
In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for this time between the three of us and whoever is listening. We pray that what we talked about was impactful to each other and to at least one other person. We pray for all 24,000 people that went to Seek a couple weeks ago, that the experiences they had there, positive or negative or whatever, may lead them closer to you, and that coming back from that experience may change their lives for the better for the rest of their life. And we pray that those who haven't gone to Seek may experience the joys of your love and your life in all things. We ask this in your name. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right.
Outro music.
This has been the Spire Podcast. Also, check out our website, spiretoday.com.
Yep.
There's more information on there, exactly what Spire is. Today wasn't a very Spire topic, but it's okay
It
because
was a
eventually
Spire topic.
it all
was
ties back
relation.
together.
It was all of it.
It was all.
Yeah. And
Follow us on
seekreplay.com.
Instagram.
Tons
Sub
of
YouTube,
amazing
whatever.
talks.
Smash like button.
Smash like button.
All-
Instagram.
all the
podcast. We don't know what to
Alright.
do. Oh no, the camera's still on.
Peace out.
Peace.